Quick favor. Please drop your city and age in the comments so I can understand my audience. Thanks for the support. Aaron is not your brother. Those 4 words landed like a blade in my ribs. The paper smelled faintly of old tobacco and regret. I read the note twice before my hand stopped shaking. 8 hours earlier, they seated me among distant relatives where sight was poor. My name is Margaret Maggie Sullivan. I am 50 years old. I own an antique shop downtown. I paid for nearly everything at the wedding. I paid for the hall, the flowers, and the lights. I paid for the photographer, the cake, and the DJ. Through the crowd I could barely see my brother. Aaron stood under the chandelier with Rachel. His hand rested in her palm like a promise. His smile never turned toward me. Aunt Tammy. Sit here, Maggie. It's easier to see from there. Server. Ma'am, they asked us to seat you here. I nodded and sat on the folding chair. The chair squeaked when I shifted. A neon sign glowed above the cake with their names. The room smelled of garlic and frying oil. I kept receipts folded inside my purse like talismans. I remembered nightstanding frames in my small shop. I remembered counting cash until the sun came up. I believe those hours bought me a place at the table. Aaron passed our table and laughed with his friends. Aaron. Maggie, you look great tonight. His voice brushed past me like distant wind. I smiled because I could not do otherwise. During the speeches my name did not appear. Her father gave a long syrupy toast. They praised their luck and future plans. My contribution was invisible on the polished program. A bridesmaid's text flashed across my phone. Text. His sister covered everything, go big. I opened my banking app with numb fingers. There were charges I had not approved. A rehearsal dinner upgrade showed on my account. A wine tasting fee appeared without my consent. They used my money and pretended otherwise. I waited until the band hit a loud part. I waited until people loosened their ties. Then I left by the side door without a scene. Outside, the air hit my face like truth. My phone showed missed calls from vendors. Florist, DJ, bar manager, all blinking red. I called them with a flat, quiet voice. Maggie. This is Margaret Sullivan. Cancel the Sunday delivery. Florist. Contract terms do not allow refunds. Maggie. Understood, I said, and I hung up. My chest hummed with a small, steady resolve. I did not return to the crowded hall that night. I booked a small motel near the subway. The motel smelled faintly of bleach and lemon. I lay in my dress and watched the ceiling fan. 3 short voicemails from Aaron waited on my phone. Aaron. Maggie, where did you go? Are you okay? I did not answer that night. At dawn I drove home while the city slept. My house smelled of old wood and strong coffee. I went straight to the second dresser drawer. I kept papers there no one else checked. Under old insurance notices sat a folded envelope. The handwriting on the front looked like my father's. Tom Sullivan. His slow crooked hand wrote there. I sat on the bed and unfolded the letter carefully. The paper felt thin and final inside my hands. I read the first lines and my breath stopped. Letter. Maggie, I cannot carry this truth any longer. Letter. I should have told you sooner. I am sorry. I read one more line and the paper cut me clean. Letter. Aaron is not your brother by blood. My hands went cold and steady all at once. For a long moment I neither moved nor spoke. 35 years of sisterhood flooded over me then. I had raised him, protected him, and paid for him. The letter did not erase those nights at his bedside, but the words explained how easy erasure had been. I folded the note back along its crease. I did not call my father or Aaron immediately. I sat very still on the bed and breathed. The receipts and ledgers waited on my kitchen counter. I tasted the metallic tang of new resolve. I knew how to count and how to prove. I photographed the stack and posted one blurred shot online. No caption. No explanation. Just proof in grainy light. Messages came slowly then began to multiply. A former customer texted. A neighbor sent a heart. Someone wrote, "You do not have to stay silent." Those small words warmed me like a slow coal. That evening I made a guest list for dinner. People who had seen me and helped me stood out. Claire from the clinic. Mr. Alvarez from the post office. Lena from the bookstore, who always stayed to chat. I bought a blue tablecloth with sunflowers on it. I cooked lemon butter pasta and set 6 plates. When they arrived, the house felt honest and warm. Claire raised her glass. To Maggie. To her chair. I answered. To finally being seen. A knock came later. Aaron stood in the doorway. Aaron. Maggie, he said, voice thick and uncertain. Maggie. Sit. I handed him a box of receipts. He opened it and found the receipts and the letter. His face moved through confusion, then recognition, then shame. Aaron. Rachel said it would look better for photos. Maggie. They pushed me to the kitchen. You did nothing. He swallowed and whispered. I'm sorry. The words sounded too small for the wrong done. I closed the door gently between us. The house stayed open for my friends and the truth. The ledger sat on the counter like quiet evidence. The letter lay on the dresser like a fault line. My hands shook as I turned pages, but my mind steadied. A decision formed in me like cold iron. I would not remain the background in another picture. I would make the receipts and the money speak. I opened the letter again to read the last line. I woke with a plan. The plan was quiet and sharp. I would make numbers speak. First, I gathered every receipt from the kitchen table. The stack felt heavier than memory. I brewed coffee and set the pile beside me. Sunlight cut across the kitchen floor in thin lines. My hands did not shake as much anymore. I opened my laptop and signed into the bank. I printed every page that showed the charges. Some vendor codes matched names I did not recognize. A rehearsal dinner invoice listed a corporate account. I circled the charge in red ink. I made notes on a legal pad. Each line was a breadcrumb toward the truth. I called the bank the moment their branch opened. Bank. Good morning, First Midtown. How may I help? Maggie. I need transaction details and a fraud dispute form. Bank. Name and account number, please. I gave them my information slowly. They pulled records and read back amounts. One transfer went to a vendor with no contract. Another payment cleared under an alias. Bank. We can place a temporary hold on disputed charges. Maggie. Do it. Put a flag on everything suspicious. They asked for IDs and a sign form. I scanned my driver's license with my phone. A clerk named Jamie emailed the fraud packet quickly. Jamie. Bring the sign forms to any branch for verification. I hung up with a thin, satisfied smile. Next, I called the florist and the cake bakery. These calls needed no theatrics. Only paper and dates. Florist. Hello, Bloom and Branches. Maggie. I need copies of contracts and delivery receipts. Florist. We can pull those. Which date do you need? Maggie. August 10th, rehearsal and the main ceremony. Florist. Give us 2 hours. We will email them. I thanked them and moved to the cake shop. Bakery. Sweet Ridge Bakery. How can I help? Maggie. Send the invoice and delivery confirmation for August 10th. Bakery. We use a third-party caterer for big events. Maggie. Send me their contact. And send every email chain. I collected each PDF and saved them in a folder. A pattern began to show as I compared documents. A vendor reissued invoices with slightly different names. A middleman had arranged upgrades without a signed contract. Someone had treated my debit card like an open tab. I printed the emails that referenced covering everything. I circled the bridesmaid's message on the phone screen. I typed a simple timeline on my legal pad. 8 weeks. 3 calls. 2 anonymous invoices. A handwritten note. I called Claire at the clinic and asked a favor. Claire. Anything, Maggie? You sound sharp this morning. Maggie. Hold my Saturday if needed. I might need a witness. Claire. Consider it done. I will be there. Next, I booked a short meeting with a lawyer. Samantha Reed practices family and small business law. Samantha. Bring me your ledger and every receipt you have. Maggie. I will. Also any text messages and emails. Samantha. Good. We can draft letters demanding accounting of funds. I left the lawyer's office with a list of demands. On the way home, I stopped at Lena's bookstore. Lena. You look like you mean business today. Maggie. I do. I might need to use the shop as a meeting place. Lena. You can use the back room. Coffee's always ready. Back at my kitchen table, I arranged everything neatly. The receipts looked like fingerprints under harsh light. I composed a single email and sent it that night. To Aaron, Rachel, Aunt Tammy, and the wedding vendors. Subject: request for immediate accounting of event payments. Body: I paid for specific items. I request receipts now. I hit send and felt the small electric click of action. Aaron replied within an hour. Aaron: Maggie, we can talk in person tonight. Maggie: meet at my shop at 7. Bring Rachel. He agreed. He sounded cautious and distracted. The shop smelled of old paper when they arrived. Aaron came in first, suit rumpled from a long day. Rachel followed, lipstick slightly smudged at the corner. A bell chimed. I closed the back door and turned the lock. Maggie: sit down. I have questions and receipts. Aaron: I don't know what to say. Rachel: Maggie, we didn't mean to hurt you. Maggie: you used my money without my permission. Explain. Rachel's face shifted, then hardened. Rachel: we assumed it would be easier. No one would notice. Aaron: she said it would look better. I trusted her. Maggie: who is she? Rachel: her bridesmaid, Lauren. She said upgrades were on you. I slid a printed screenshot across the table. The bridesmaid's message read: his sister covered everything, go big. Aaron stared at the text and then at me. He looked smaller in my shop's light. Aaron: I thought you wanted everything to be perfect. Maggie: I wanted honesty, not a surprise bill. Rachel: we can repay you. We will fix this. Maggie: repayment requires documentation and signatures. I placed the bank printout between their hands. Maggie: this transfer goes to Event Upgrades LLC. Who signed? Aaron shifted and looked away. Aaron: I didn't sign anything. I didn't call anyone. Rachel: Aaron, tell her the truth. He swallowed and met my eyes. Aaron: I forwarded an approval text. I didn't check details. Maggie: you forwarded consent. That is still consent. The shop hummed with the old radio in the corner. I reached into my drawer and pulled the folded letter. I laid it on the table like a second judge. Rachel's mouth opened and closed like a fish on land. She tried to reach for the letter. I pulled it back. Maggie: this isn't only about money anymore. Aaron's shoulders went up and then dropped. Aaron: Tom told me things years ago. I didn't understand. Maggie: you didn't tell me. You let them erase me. He tried to speak, but his voice caught. Rachel: we panicked. We thought it would be simpler. Maggie: simplicity built on theft is still theft. Silence folded over the room like thick velvet. I stood slowly and walked to the bookshelf. I pulled down a small ledger and set it on the table. Maggie: I will file disputes with the bank tomorrow. Maggie: I will send a demand letter through my lawyer. Maggie: I will expect repayment terms in writing within 7 days. Aaron nodded slowly, shame plain on his face. Rachel's eyes were wet, but she did not apologize enough. I handed them an envelope with copies of everything. Maggie: keep these. Consider this your notice. They left quietly, the bell chiming as the door closed. I locked the shop and stood alone in the quiet. The plan had teeth now. It had steps and witnesses. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee and sat down. My fingers trembled only when I finally allowed them to. Outside, the street was calm and ordinary. Inside, I had set the first legal gears in motion. I had opened the ledger and found the path forward. I woke to an inbox full of vendor PDFs. My lawyer Samantha called within the hour. Samantha: keep everything. Do not post more online. Maggie: I won't. I need to know who signed. Samantha: I'll draft a demand letter this morning. I brewed coffee and spread receipts across the table. Claire texted: I'm available for any witness statements. Lena dropped off a thermos and stayed to listen. I felt steadier with allies at my back. The bank emailed a confirmation of a temporary hold. Bank: we placed holds pending your fraud dispute. My chest loosened a fraction. The fight had started. Next, fluorescent scan contracts and delivery slips. Their delivery confirmation showed a signature: Tammy Brooks. My palms went slick with sudden slow heat. Tammy Brooks was Aunt Tammy's full name. I opened the cake shop documents. The signature matched. An invoice showed Event Upgrades LLC as payee. I ran the company number and hit a brick wall. The listing led to a commercial mailbox downtown. A mailbox couldn't explain a signature though. I printed everything and made neat stacks for Samantha. Samantha. This looks like collusion and false invoicing. Maggie. Can we force disclosure of the LLC owner? Samantha. Yes. I'll subpoena those records if necessary. I sent a terse email to Aunt Tammy that afternoon. Subject. Clarification needed about August 10th charges. Body. Please explain your signature on these invoices. I hit send and watched the cursor blink. Minutes later my phone buzzed with a new message. Message from unknown. Take them down, Maggie. Now. No number, no name. Just the threat, thin and cold. I forwarded it to Samantha without comment. Samantha. Document everything. Save metadata and timestamps. I felt the old quiet iron in my gut. Later Aaron texted. I told Tammy nothing about signatures. I stared at the screen and did not reply. Rachel called and left a shaky voicemail. Rachel. We panicked. We trusted Aunt Tammy. Her voice broke on the last word. It sounded small. I returned to the ledger and counted every debit twice. The pattern became uglier with each pass. Several vendors reissued invoices with inflated amounts. One middleman skimmed 5% on every upgrade. The bridesmaid Lauren's texts quoted exact upgrade totals. I copied Lauren's messages into a new folder. Lauren. He won't notice. We will cover the rest. I now had messages that tied people together. Samantha prepared a formal letter of demand that evening. Samantha. Give them 7 days to respond in writing. Maggie. 7 days. If they refuse, we sue. I posted a second blurred photo that night. No names again. Just a stack of invoices elevated. Replies arrived from clients and neighbors almost immediately. Someone wrote, bring receipts. We'll come if needed. My friends meant it with teeth and warmth. I slept poorly but with purpose in my bones. On day 3 the florist phoned with new news. Florist. Our delivery slip shows Tammy Brooks' signature. Florist. We can notarize and verify our original files. I felt the net closing from one side. Then a package arrived at my shop that afternoon. It was a single thin envelope with no return. Inside was a photocopy of the LLC's registration. The owner listed was a name I did not know, but the mailing address matched Aunt Tammy's P.O. box. I took a photograph and sent it to Samantha. Samantha. We can issue subpoenas for both records. Maggie. Do it. Subpoena everything tied to event upgrades. While we waited, Aunt Tammy called sharp and loud. Aunt Tammy. Maggie, how dare you involve banks and lawyers? Maggie. You signed invoices. Explain why, Aunt Tammy. Aunt Tammy. I covered it because family needed a free hand. Maggie. You signed my name to charges. Aunt Tammy. I thought you wanted them happy. I helped. Her help sounded like a thin, brittle shield. I put the phone down and breathed slowly. Samantha. We will need Aunt Tammy's testimony. Samantha. If she lies, perjury charges are possible. I did not relish criminal talk, but I prepared. Days passed and the 7-day clock ticked down. On day 6 a lawyer's letter arrived for me. Letterhead read, Event Upgrades LLC Legal Counsel. My hands trembled while I opened the letter. The letter accused me of defamation and slander. It demanded I remove posts and apologize immediately. Samantha. They filed a preemptive legal threat. Classic move. Maggie. What is their aim? Samantha. Intimidation. To stop you from digging deeper. I folded the paper along its crease and set it down. Outside the shop bell chimed as a customer entered. Inside, normal life carried on like an indifferent engine. But at my back the legal machinery hummed louder. That night I counted days left on my calendar. 7 days had begun. 6 days remained for reply. As I locked the shop door, my phone vibrated again. This time the message was from Aaron's number. Text. Maggie, meet me tomorrow. I have something to show. I stared at the screen without answering. Then a second vibration. Another text arrived. This one came from Aunt Tammy's number. Text. Don't ruin the family, Maggie. Please. My jaw tightened until something in my face hurt. I turned the lock twice and walked to my car. The blue tablecloth folded in the passenger seat burned like proof. I breathed out a slow, cold plan into the night air. Tomorrow Aaron planned to meet me. I had questions ready. But before dawn I received one last message that stopped me. It was a photo. A single screenshot of a bank transfer. The memo line read 3 words. Keep her quiet. My hand slid on the steering wheel. The proof I needed sat on my phone, heavy and bright. I sat very still and waited for the sun. I set the shop clock to 7 sharp. My phone recorded everything. I placed the screenshot on the table face up. The memo read in 3 cold words. Keep her quiet. I brewed coffee and waited with steady hands. A bell chimed as Aaron pushed the door open. He looked smaller in my shop's dusty light. Rachel followed, avoiding my direct gaze. Aaron. You wanted to meet. What's so urgent? Maggie, sit. Please. Look at this. I slid the phone and a printout toward him. Aaron's fingers trembled as he read the memo. He swallowed like air was thick in his throat. Aaron. I don't know why that's there. Maggie. Someone wrote keep her quiet. Who wrote that? Rachel. We didn't send that. We swear. Aaron. Lauren texted we should go big. He stopped, eyes locked on the phone again. Maggie. Who authorized the charges to Event Upgrades LLC? Aaron's jaw worked. He avoided my eyes. Aaron. Aunt Tammy signed some receipts. I thought she cleared it. Maggie. Aunt Tammy signed my name to invoices. Rachel. We panicked when vendors called. Tammy said she'd handle it. Maggie. Tammy used an LLC and a P.O. box. There's a paper trail. I pushed the photocopy across to Aaron. He read the LLC registration and then slumped. Aaron. I didn't know the details. I forwarded one text. Maggie. Forwarding a text is consent. Aaron. I never saw the memo. I swear I didn't. Maggie. Then tell me who did. Tell me now. He blinked fast and finally spoke, small and raw. Aaron. Tammy said she'd keep things quiet. For family. Aaron. She told Lauren to handle upgrades. I trusted it. He folded into himself like a card. Rachel. Tammy told us nobody would check receipts. Maggie. So they treated my account like an open tab. Silence filled the shop like thick fabric. I tapped my phone. It was recording. Maggie. If you lie, I'll use this recording. Aaron's face crumpled. He looked pained and honest. Aaron. Okay. Tammy told Lauren to make it look seamless. Aaron. Tammy signed delivery slips after the fact. Rachel began to cry, quick and ashamed. Rachel. We never wanted to hurt you, Maggie. Maggie. You hurt me by erasing me from their story. I handed them the bank printout and circled names. Maggie. You will repay. In writing. With signatures. Aaron. I don't have that kind of money. Maggie. Then get what you can. Sign a promissory note. Rachel. We will. We'll fix this. Please. Maggie. Fixing requires documentation and proof of payment. I slid a blank promissory across the table. Aaron's hand hovered. Then he took the pen. He signed with a shaking small script. Maggie. You have 7 days to begin repayment. Aaron nodded, throat thick. He looked younger than his age. He left with Rachel, shoulders bowed and quiet. I breathed like someone who had just woken up. The bell chimed again. Aunt Tammy stood framed in the doorway. She was not what I expected. She wore a practiced smile. Aunt Tammy. Maggie, darling. I'm surprised you called lawyers. Maggie. You signed invoices and used my money, Tammy. Aunt Tammy. I helped the family. I smoothed things over. Maggie. You placed charges under a company name. Aunt Tammy. It was a vendor. I handled the paperwork quickly. Maggie. Your signature is on the florist and cake slips. Aunt Tammy's smile thinned into a small, careful expression. Aunt Tammy. We didn't mean to harm you, Maggie. Maggie. Someone sent me a clear message. Keep her quiet. Aunt Tammy's eyes flicked away and then hardened oddly. Aunt Tammy. You must understand. Weddings cause emotions. Mistakes happen. Maggie. Mistakes would not create phony LLCs and PO boxes. Aunt Tammy. There are family reasons. It's complicated. Maggie. Family reasons do not justify theft or lies. Aunt Tammy. Do you want to make this ugly? Maggie. I want the truth and repayment on paper. Aunt Tammy's voice dropped into a lower register. Aunt Tammy. You don't know what you're playing with, Margaret. Her words were a threat in soft clothing. Maggie. Then explain. Now. Or Samantha files subpoenas tomorrow. Aunt Tammy's hand trembled ever so slightly. Aunt Tammy. If you go public, you will break family. Maggie. Family is not built on my invisibility. She laughed once, thin and brittle. Aunt Tammy. You always thought money buys respect, didn't you? Maggie. Money doesn't buy respect. It reveals who respects you. Aunt Tammy's smile fell away. She looked suddenly small. Aunt Tammy. I'll talk to Samantha. We'll fix this quietly. Maggie. You will sign a repayment schedule. Not words, signatures. Aunt Tammy. Do you want me to humiliate my daughter? Maggie. I want what was taken returned. In writing. She hesitated, then agreed with a clipped nod. Aunt Tammy left with a promise that smelled like dust. As the door shut, my phone buzzed with 2 new messages. One was from Samantha. Subpoena's ready. Serve when you instruct. The other was a photo of a license plate. Unknown number. A silver SUV parked across the street. The memo, keep her quiet, sat heavy on the table. I breathed in and let the cold decision settle deeper. 7 days left on the clock. I began to prepare the next move. Day 5 began with a knock at the shop door. I opened and found 2 men in suits. They wore thin smiles and firm shoes. Man in suit. Margaret Sullivan? Maggie. Yes. How can I help? Man in suit. We are counsel for Event Upgrades LLC. Woman in suit held a sealed envelope. Woman in suit. You must remove online posts immediately. Man in suit. And cease all statements about our client. Maggie. On what grounds? Woman in suit. On grounds of defamation and privacy invasion. Man in suit. We also have a temporary restraining order. I felt the floor tilt under my feet. Samantha called and swore softly into the phone. Samantha. They filed a TRO overnight. Unbelievable move. Maggie. Can they get a court to silence me? Samantha. They can get an emergency order. For now, yes. My post came down with my trembling hands. The blurred photos stayed online a moment longer. Then they vanished into enforced silence. Anxiety wrote itself in small, cold letters inside my chest. Outside, a silver SUV idled across the street again. Its windows were dark and unreadable. A number plate photo had come into my inbox earlier. I had not called the police. I did not want escalation. Now escalation sat 2 feet from my counter in legal paper. I handed the envelope to Samantha through the shop window. Samantha read and then locked her jaw. Samantha. They've hired a notorious litigation firm. Maggie. Are we defenseless? Samantha. Not defenseless. But this costs time and money. She tapped her tablet and scrolled fast. Samantha. We file an emergency response. We ask to lift the TRO. Maggie. Do it. Do it now. Samantha. But first we need to protect your accounts. I realized the bank had not released the hold yet. I called Jamie at the branch and asked for records. Jamie. We have flagged transfers. We can expedite review. Maggie. Expedite. I cannot lose access to my shop funds. Jamie. I'll put you at the top of the list. While Jamie moved numbers, another email arrived. It was from a city clerk. A notice of audit. They wanted to review my small business tax filings. Someone had filed a complaint alleging irregular payments. My chest tightened like a hand. I thought of Aunt Tammy's brittle smile. I thought of Lauren's casual "he won't notice" text. I thought of the memo. Keep her quiet. Samantha. They are hitting you from every angle. Maggie. Then we hit back from a harder angle. Samantha. Publicity is risky under TRO. We must be surgical. I made a list on a sticky note. Proof, witnesses, chain of emails, vendor contracts, timestamps. Claire volunteered to prepare a signed statement. Claire. I will swear what I saw and heard. Lena offered the bookstore back room for meetings. Lena. Bring people. I'll make coffee and listen. Mr. Alvarez said he would testify to deliveries. Mr. Alvarez. I can confirm dates and who paid. I slept badly with plans running through my head. On day 6 a courier left a small wrapped package. No sender. No return address. Only a short note. Note, stop now. Or things get worse. My hands folded the paper until the creases burned. I took the package to Samantha without opening it. Samantha. We will involve the police if threats escalate. Maggie. I do not want a scandal of broken trust. Samantha. Scandal is already underway. This is defense now. That afternoon Aaron brought a bag of cash. He set it on my desk like a child's apology. Aaron. This is what I could gather today. Maggie. It's small. Aaron. I know. I will find more. Maggie. Then start with Lauren. Show me her messages. He slid his phone across, screen lit and shaking. Lauren's texts were blunt and careless. Lauren. We will upgrade. Don't worry. Tammy's covered. Lauren. Keep her quiet. No one needs to know. I photographed the messages and backed them up twice. Samantha. This ties Lauren and Tammy to the plan. Maggie. We need Lauren in front of a notary. Aaron. She will balk. She will lie at first. Maggie. Fine. We will prepare for that. I felt a strange steadiness take hold of me. Anger had thinned into a precise, cold focus. But then the phone rang with a number I did not know. Detective. Margaret Sullivan? Detective Harris. You need to come down. Maggie. Where? Why? Detective Harris. There's been a complaint. We need your laptop. My stomach dropped. My hands went damp. Samantha. Do not hand over anything without counsel. Detective Harris. It's a subpoena. Court order attached. Samantha read the order and cursed low. Samantha. They've subpoenaed your electronics and records. Maggie. Who filed the complaint? Samantha. Event Upgrades Council initiated it. Tactically smart. My shop felt suddenly very small and very exposed. I locked the front door and breathed deeply twice. Then I reached for the locked filing cabinet. I opened the drawer and pulled the envelope of proof. I slid the receipts, the bank statements, and the memo together. I tucked the photos and Lauren's texts inside too. I drove to the police station with Samantha at my side. The silver SUV watched from its street perch again. Samantha. We go in together. We do not volunteer extra paperwork. At the station the metal bench felt cold under my hands. Detective Harris. We are executing the subpoena now. Maggie. I want counsel present for anything taken. Detective Harris. Your lawyer can observe the process. They logged serial numbers and sealed envelopes carefully. My laptop screen was dark as they opened a case file. As they packed boxes, a clerk found one particular email. Clerk. There's a flagged message. It references keep quiet. Detective Harris read it and frowned hard. Detective Harris. This changes the investigation scope. He stood and folded his jacket like a man deciding. Detective Harris. We will need to interview several parties. My throat closed. My heart began to race. Samantha squeezed my hand under the table. Samantha. This could be the turning point. Maggie. Turning toward what? Samantha. Toward proof or toward a criminal inquiry. Outside, the silver SUV's engine started slowly. It pulled away with patient, quiet motion. I watched the taillights until they went dark down the block. The clock on the wall blinked 15 minutes to noon. My phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. Text. We told you once. Stop now. I felt my hands go steady again. This time the resolve tasted like something sharper. I stood and followed Detective Harris into a small interview room. The door closed softly behind me. The clock on the wall told me there were fewer than 3 days left. I walked into day 6 with the subpoena still warm in my hands. Samantha rode beside me like a silent engine. Detective Harris met us under the police banner. He had papers and a sober face. Detective Harris. We need to talk about Aunt Tammy. Maggie. She's been central from the start. He nodded and led me into a small room. The fluorescent light hummed above us. Detective Harris. We pulled phone metadata for event upgrades calls. Maggie. And? Detective Harris. Tammy's P.O. box and phone appear in logs. My throat closed for a second. Samantha. That ties her more directly than paper alone. Detective Harris. We also traced a transfer memo. Keep her quiet. His voice was flat and steady. Maggie. That memo came from a middleman account. Detective Harris. We subpoenaed that account. It showed a routing from Tammy. Samantha. We need to move fast on witness interviews. Detective Harris. We will start with Lauren, then Tammy. He left with a folder that felt like a verdict. Outside, the silver SUV idled at its usual corner. Its presence hurt like a breath on the neck. I went back to the shop and breathed in paper dust. I called Claire and Lena to mobilize their witness statements. Claire? I'll sign a sworn affidavit, Maggie. Lena? I will notarize it in my back room. Mr. Alvarez offered to certify deliveries and dates. I gathered everyone into a small, polite army. At noon we served Lauren with a subpoena. She arrived shaking, hair-pinned, eyes large. Lauren? I didn't mean real harm. It was panic. Maggie? You sent the texts and named upgrades. Lauren? I said the upgrades would be on his sister. I didn't know. Samantha? Who coached you on wording, Lauren? Lauren's face folded like wet paper. Lauren? Tammy told me what to say. Tammy signed slips. Maggie? You will testify under oath about that. Lauren? If I testify, will I face charges? Samantha? We can request cooperation terms. But it's conditional. Lauren swallowed and nodded. She agreed to give a recorded statement under counsel. Her voice broke when she repeated Tammy's instructions. Lauren, she said, make it look seamless. Keep her quiet. That line fell in the room like a verdict. After Lauren left, I felt some pieces clicking into place. But the relief tasted thin and metallic. Aunt Tammy called twice that afternoon. Her first voicemail was a practiced calm. Aunt Tammy. Maggie, let's settle this privately, please. I did not call back. I sent Samantha instead. Samantha. We will accept no private settlements yet. Samantha. We need sworn statements and payment records. That night a man in a dark suit waited near the shop. He watched the window like a hawk. I took a photo and sent it to Samantha. Samantha. Document everything. Do not engage. The next morning Detective Harris arrived with a warrant. Detective Harris. We will execute a search on Tammy's P.O. box. I kept my hands folded while officers left with boxes. They cataloged everything with meticulous care. Samantha. This is good. The chain of custody matters. 2 hours later a sealed envelope arrived for me. Inside was a receipt and a canceled check. The pay event upgrades LLC. The signature Tammy Brooks. The check memo. Wedding upgrades courtesy. My hands trembled as I photographed it. Samantha. They are building a paper mountain. She smiled thin and professional. Aunt Tammy called again, voice brittle now. Aunt Tammy. You are destroying family, Margaret. Maggie. You destroyed my trust first. Aunt Tammy. You will regret public fights. Maggie. I'm not fighting for spectacle. I'm fighting for truth. She hung up with a sound like breaking ceramic. On day 2 before the deadline I received a brief email. Subject line. Settlement offer. Short and cold. They proposed repayment across 12 months. No admission of wrongdoing. No signatures up front. Samantha. It's a stall. A tactic to avoid subpoenas. Maggie. We counter with a formal demand and a press-safe summary. Samantha. I will prepare the paperwork tonight. That evening Aaron came alone to the shop again. He looked hollowed and small. Aaron. I tried to stop it when I learned. Maggie. You forwarded approval without reading details. Aaron. I panicked. I regret it every day. Maggie. Regret won't return my money. He pressed a folded envelope across the table. Inside were receipts of small transfers he had scraped together. Aaron. It's not enough, but it's a start. Maggie. Keep a record. Add to it daily. He left with shoulders that carried shame now. Late that night my phone lit up with a string. Unknown number. Last warning. Drop it. Photographs followed. A silver SUV from across the street. Samantha. We put that message into evidence. Samantha. We also file for protective measures. I slept in short bursts, waking to the picture of the memo. In the morning, Detective Harris called with a new discovery. Detective Harris. We traced the middleman account further upstream. Detective Harris. It links to a small events broker downtown. Maggie. Name. Detective Harris. Mercer Events Group. Samantha. We subpoena Mercer next. They may show higher layers. My breath shortened in a small, sharp way. Every new threat tightened the net around Tammy, but it also widened the circle of people involved. I realized this was no longer only about family secrecy. It had become a small industry of casual theft. 2 days remained on the legal clock. I made coffee and reviewed witness statements one more time. Claire had notarized her affidavit. Lena's statement matched dates. Lauren's recorded testimony awaited transcription. Samantha. Tomorrow we file our motion to lift the TRO. Maggie. And if they push back? Samantha. Then we escalate. We involve the press carefully. Outside, the silver SUV returned and idled for a moment. I watched it through the shop window like a sentinel. My plan had teeth now, but so did theirs. I set the ledger back down with a steady hand. 2 days left on the clock. I breathed and let the cold resolve sit deeper. The 7th day opened like a verdict. Court papers waited on my kitchen island. Samantha hovered over the folder. Samantha. We filed to lift the TRO this morning. Maggie. Make it fast. I want answers public. We moved like people who had practiced urgency. Claire arrived with a notarized affidavit in hand. Lena carried a box of delivery confirmations. Mr. Alvarez wore his postal coat like armor. We walked into the courthouse with quiet steps. The clerk stamped our motion and slid it forward. Judge. Ms. Sullivan, counsel? Samantha. We request immediate disclosure and lifting of the TRO. Samantha. We have invoices, bank routing, and witness statements. The judge read for a slow minute. Judge. There is probable cause to compel production. A courtroom deputy handed a small envelope to me. Inside. The subpoena returns for Event Upgrades LLC. Their registered owner was Tammy's P.O. Box name. The judge frowned at the paper trail with a human face. Judge. This court will set a hearing. Discovery moves fast. On the courthouse steps, reporters already waited with pens. A camera flashed like a shuddered breath into my face. Samantha. Stick to facts. No grandstanding. I nodded and kept my voice low and steady. Maggie. I paid for a wedding. I asked for receipts. Reporter. Are you accusing your family of fraud? Maggie. I am asking the court to show the paper. That afternoon the press ran small, careful pieces. Not flames. Not gossip. Facts printed beside scanned pages. People called it a small, ugly family story. Neighbors called it a theft that hit a community. Lauren's recorded statement ran with a transcript. Lauren. Tammy told me to make it look seamless. Tammy's phone went silent for the first time in days. Then the city issued an audit notice to Event Upgrades. Officials knocked on the P.O. box and found envelopes. The mailbox held registration forms, invoices, and blank checks. Detective Harris. We have enough for an initial criminal inquiry. He looked at me with a tired, honest face. Detective Harris. Tammy may face fraud and forgery charges. I felt a cold steadiness replace the old burning. Samantha. We will pursue civil restitution and criminal follow-up. Aunt Tammy's image unspooled in the local paper. She called my shop. Her voice cracked in small pieces. Aunt Tammy. Margaret, I can fix this. Please. Maggie. Fix it with truth. Put it in writing. She mailed a letter the next morning. It read short. Tammy. I am sorry. I will repay what I can. Her signature trembled on the dotted line. Samantha. A written promise is a start, not closure. Court hearings began. Depositions filled rooms with people. Lauren testified about texts and whispered instructions. Aaron sat through cross-examination and flinched like a boy. Samantha. We filed a civil suit for restitution. The judge ordered a temporary repayment schedule. Aaron agreed to a structured plan and wage garnishment. Tammy's checkbook revealed transfers to event upgrades. Mercer Events Group produced contracts tying vendors together. A small events broker in the chain faced subpoenas too. The legal machine creaked, hit, and moved with slow force. Outside, the silver SUV's presence thinned and then stopped. Someone from the press called me the shopkeeper who fought back. I did not answer that headline with flair. I answered with numbers. Receipts tallied. Bank transfers matched invoices line by line. One by one, the pieces locked into place. Community turnout at the hearing surprised me gently. Neighbors, customers, and friends filled the gallery. Claire sat stoic in the front row. Lena held my hand. Mr. Alvarez brought a small paper flag and a kind nod. They watched while legal words turned my ledger into truth. Samantha negotiated quietly with opposing counsel at the bench. They wanted to limit press and call it a family matter. I refused. I wanted proof, not private apologies. Samantha. We accept a settlement with admission of wrongdoing. Maggie. I want full accounting and signed restitution. The settlement came with a public statement and funds. Tammy agreed to repay via escrow and to resign from church duties. Event Upgrades LLC dissolved under subpoena pressure. Mercer Events Group paid fines and amended contracts. Lauren entered a diversion program and provided full cooperation. Aaron completed counseling and stuck to the repayment plan. No one celebrated like we had won a sporting game. There was work to do that did not end at court. I reclaimed the ledger off the kitchen counter. The blue tablecloth with sunflowers became a ribbon. We cut a strip and pinned it to the ledger's spine. It read simply in my handwriting. Seen. The tablecloth had been my comfort and my proof. I folded the rest and stored it with the receipts. Neighbors stopped dropping off casseroles. They left postcards instead. The shop's bell sounded like a different note now. People came to buy frames and to tell me small thanks. One woman said, "You did not let them make you invisible." I smelled lemon and old paper and something like repair. At home I took down the kitchen door's old hanging hook. I did not throw the door away. I sanded its edge clean. I planed a thin strip and wrote names on it in pencil. The strip lists the people who helped me stand up. I anchored it to a shelf where photos will go. It is not a trophy. It is proof that I took my chair back. Aaron came by twice a week to drop an envelope. He kept his word, and the garnishment began to show. Lauren volunteered at the bookstore stacking returned books. Tammy's public apologies rang hollow to some, honest to others. Court records remain for those who need to check. I keep a copy of the judge's order in the ledger. The house felt its own shape again, free of shadowed corners. I hosted one small dinner to start repairing edges. We used the blue tablecloth and spoke of small things. We did not pretend the world had not shifted. We fed truth into the cracks. At night I sit at the window and watch the street. Sometimes I think about the note on my bed. Aaron is not your brother. For words changed names. But they also started a chain that unearthed the rest. I found my voice in invoices and in witnesses. I did not get everything back. Some things never return. I got the ledger, the truth, and a place at my table. When the phone rings now, I answer with a steadier breath. I keep the folded strip of blue on the shelf. It is a small flag for what was reclaimed. If you ever sit behind a closed door and feel unseen, remember receipts can be proof and people can be witnesses. I learned how to count my courage and my losses. The ledger closes sometimes with a soft, satisfied thud. I do what I must, one careful page at a time.